I divorced my first husband in 1963, and since then I was living just with my mother, still in that basement that we talk a lot about. But then, a few years later, I don't remember what exactly year, maybe 67, maybe 68, no, even later, I know before 70, we got improvement, we got an apartment in Odessa. It was on the third floor. I don't remember if I mentioned, for sure without elevator, winding staircase, and the whole so-called apartment, 2 rooms, was 190 square feet. So it was like a living room where my mother was, and so-called bedroom where was just a sofa bed and an armoire. That's all what could fit there. Nothing else, not even a mirror, not a dresser, nothing. So that was our apartment.
Spartan, like Van Gogh room.
Right.
In France, right?
And I think I mentioned we had water, we had running water there, at least not like in a basement, but we didn't have toilet, we didn't have heating, so me and my mother, we built a toilet there, but no shower, nothing, and there was no even gas. So what we were doing, we had portable gas, and we were going with my mother to refill those gas little tanks, and that's what. But then eventually, I don't remember what year, we got gas, but that was much later. But when we built toilet, I think I mentioned we had my mother life insurance that we were paying for 5 years. So when we cashed in that life insurance, we could build the toilet and buy a refrigerator. So that was a big deal. that improved our life tremendously.
It's amazing. What years are this?
This was late 60s.
60s.
60s, yes, late 60s, beginning of 70, because, in 74 I already emigrated. And after me and my first husband divorced, I went to work on a computer center. This was not even a computer center, I don't know what you call it, with those little adding machine, when you work like that and you add things, because there was no big computers at that time. So I worked and I enrolled in university, Odessa State University, on math and computer science, but evening. I was attending for 6 years in the evening, because at daytime I was working. So after I got...
Odessa State University, OSU.
No, nobody would call it OSU.
No.
Odessa State University.
That's the American way of...
Right. After I got my university diploma on the same computer center where I was adding shit, I got a promotion to be what they call computer engineer. My salary was 75 rubles.
What is 75 rubles?
It's just to have for food, maybe rent.
How much was 1 liter of milk?
I don't remember a liter of milk. I know that we paid, I think rent was about 15 or 18 rubles, I don't remember. I know that money was barely enough to make ends meet from one salary to the other salary. My mother was getting pension 10 rubles a month. 10 rubles a month because she...
Rent was 20.
Yeah, close to 20. She worked all her life, but during the war all archives were destroyed and she couldn't prove that she worked. So she was getting like poor, whatever, 10 rubles a month, that's all. So at that time, in 70s already, I met somebody who immigrated and somebody from our office immigrated. So to me, that idea was so foreign. I would say, how can you live? You were born here, you lived all your life, and you would go to somewhere absolutely unknown, those capitalists, you know how propaganda was in Russia. So absolutely not. And then I had a very close friend of mine, Sveta, who came here. I invited her a few times. So her boyfriend immigrated to Israel, and he hated there, and he was not allowed to come back. Nowadays, much later, they allow. But at that time, you lose your citizenship, and you will never be able to come back to see your relatives or friends or whatever. But when I met already a few people that immigrated, that they were going to immigrate or whatever, all of a sudden I got this idea. And now my principle was that everybody was telling me, how can you go alone? And I had to go alone because I didn't have money for my big salary. I didn't have enough money to pay for myself and my mother. So I had to go alone. And everybody said, you will be lost there. You will die, but you will fail. What can you do without language, nothing? But I kept saying, I know everything till the end of my life here. I always will live probably in this tiny apartment. Maybe I will get married again, because that was the best years of my life, from 20-something to 30-something. So for sure I was dating, but I didn't get married.
Why was that the best years of your life, do you think?
Best years in the sense of age. I had friends. I even traveled.
You were single again?
I was single again. I would travel once because after I graduated from that technical school, for a few years I worked on a mill, where they make flour. That was in a village. Our village, when I remember, that was a nightmare, but I worked there for a few years. And working there, I managed to get a trip far abroad, what was west for us, Bulgaria. Bulgaria is nothing. But
that was your first trip abroad?
Yes,
How
yes.
old were you?
I was, not even 30 yet. No, maybe 26, 27. But that was a big deal. If you know such a resort in Bulgaria, Zlati Pieski, it's called Golden Sands. Golden Sands.
But it's famous.
Yeah, it's very famous. It's on the Black Sea, and for sure that was a trip that I had to pay off just for a few years. I had to pay off the cost of the.
In that system, going abroad was a big deal, huge deal. So even Bulgaria, which is the armpit of Europe, was a big deal.
But that was probably a really important trip for you.
First time
Changed your life.
Yeah.
Did that give you a sense of, wow, there's a whole world out there? Do you think that was the beginning?
Absolutely.
Why you decided to come here?
The Soviets, the communists, kept the country in the dark. No information from the outside, only bad information.
And even when I was in Bulgaria, in that small group, we had a guy in a group who was watching everybody. And because I met somebody, I had a couple of dates, and he already scolded me, you are not supposed to do that.
That was in Bulgaria?
Yes.
So you got a handler?
Absolutely.
KGB.
Okay, yeah.
A Communist Party KGB handlers, chaperones were everywhere.
Yes, this is true. But still, after Bulgaria...
How to behave, everything.
Yeah.
Behavior, everything. It's controlled.
After Bulgaria, immigration didn't start yet, so I never thought about this. But now, when I met a few people already who immigrated or were going to immigrate, So all of a sudden I was saying, I don't know what will be. It's unknown, but let be worse, but something different. My dream always was to see Paris. I used to say, if I could see Paris for 10 days, I would give 10 years of my life.
How did you get that dream? Did you see it in a book? Did you?
Oh yeah, in movies and books. To me, Paris was the epitome of something so beautiful and absolutely unreal and unfeasible that I will never be there. And I said, if I go to America, so I probably one day will be able to see Paris. So
that's so interesting. I love how the trip to Bulgaria was the seed.
Yeah. Bulgaria is a very poor country. Even in Russia, they used to say sparrow is not a bird and Bulgaria is not abroad. In Russia, it sounds different. Воробей не птица, Bulgaria не за граница.
Actually, I understood that.
Yeah, you understand Russian, so yeah. So, but that was the seed, and then letters. I was getting letters from some couple who are now my close friends because they emigrated to Israel. At that time, you couldn't go to America, and they had a terrible time when the war started, the 6-day war there. They had a boy, they were afraid if he grows up, and so they left eventually Israel. And I was getting letters from them from America. He was a computer programmer also in our computer center, and he wrote a letter that he has a job where he gets $10,000 a year. To me, it was, my God, $10,000 a year. If someday I could get it, I would be the richest person in the world.
When I came to this country, $10,000 was my lifetime goal. Igor, you make $10,000 annually, you made it.
Yeah, that's what.
What was the equivalent in Czech or?
In Russia, I cannot say equivalent.
You cannot even there's no equivalent. You cannot compare it to anything.
There was no foreign currency. If you have foreign currency, you can be arrested and put in jail.
If you had a $1 bill in your pocket, you could go to jail, depending on the policeman who would see it.
Yeah.
The same in Slovakia.
Same thing. They exported that stuff to our country. In 1948, all of a sudden, we became brothers with Russians overnight. That's what they called us, brothers. And they exported this system of communism, socialism, Stalinism to our country. So overnight, we were communists. 1948. After World War II, well, the Russians, the Soviets, liberated Eastern Europe, and they never left. And they implemented that system in my country. So I'm very familiar what she's talking about.
Yes, so that's
travel abroad, prohibited. You were not even encouraged to think about such a thing. Any foreign publications, books, magazines, records, music was prohibited, absolutely prohibited.
Did your parents talk about, because they were old enough?
Very bitterly. My father was so bitter because he fought in World War II.
That's why he called him Igor.
As
Igor
a
is
guerrilla.
a Russian name.
Partisan guerrilla against Germans, Nazis, and who were helping them were the Soviets, Russians. They were dropping supplies, weapons, parachute, advisors. So many advisors would come, and one of them was called Igor. That's why.
That's why he got the Russian name.
When I was a boy, I didn't like the fact that I was called Igor, Russian name. Russian Soviets were very unpopular in my country. They were occupiers. Nobody called them that, but they were occupiers. Yeah. So I actually went out of my way, and I researched that Igor is a Viking name. It was a name of one of the governors of that portion of what is today Russia. Prince Igor.
So you should call yourself Igor.
It's not a Russian name, it's a Viking name. To me, that was big. That meant something. You know? Do you know what was prohibited? For two people stand on a corner and talk. That was prohibited. Two people talking, or three, that's a crime. The police would come with you know, they would come with sticks, nightsticks, and disperse.
It's already some conspiracy.
Yeah.
Were they Russian police?
No, local police. No, there were no. Russians were invisible. We would see tanks in distance. We would see bases, but the Russians were invisible. But the only way you could become policeman is to become part of the system. So it was a police state. A policeman was absolute power. He could do anything, and did.
That's why we are afraid of policemen even now.
Even now, when I see
We
a
didn't
policeman,
do anything wrong.
you know, I have a feeling in my back, my skin crawls. I mean, I have a reaction to when I see a policeman after 50 years almost.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what police they will do to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's deep.
And I treat policemen so well over here because they were the utmost authority. That was the most visible authority.
Wow.
But
So that was their export. This kind of system, I was there. And
So did you feel this in Russia, in Odessa?
Sure.
And so the idea, did that contribute to wanting to get out of that system? How important were those conversations in your 20s?
when I told you my story that anti-Semitism that I felt in school, trying to get on to university, and even my first marriage. I told you, even if they were Greek, but they were very negative to me because I was Jewish. I always felt it. So that.
no, but he asked whether you felt the system.
Oh, the system.
No, you were born under that. You know,
For us, it was we took it for granted.
that was normal. Because this system was born in 1920s. So that was already second generation of this.
Yeah, and
For us, it was
I'll
imposed
tell you,
on.
my mother, she was born 1912, but when Stalin died in 1953, we all were crying. My mother was crying. Our father
We
died.
were celebrating, I remember that, 1953, we were in streets and celebrating because the whole country shut
We
down.
all were crying.
When Stalin died, our country shut down. Nothing moved, no cars, trains, for factories, everything shut down. We were out in the streets and we felt free because even police wasn't on the street.
But so can I ask you, your father was, your uncle was taken prisoner by the Germans. And when he came back, Stalin had a policy where you were prisoner, you go to
Oh,
Siberia.
but that by that time he died already.
Right, but I find it interesting.
No, but that's exactly, he's right. Stalin said it was a black mark on your legacy
Yeah,
to be
that's what I
captured
told
by.
yesterday. My aunt's
Exile.
husband, he was captured by German,
Right.
and he even didn't have a chance to come to the village.
You shouldn't have
to
been
see
captured
his
by Germans.
wife. Yeah, he was sent to labor camp
so-
in Siberia where he died.
But Stalin was responsible for that. So now Stalin dies and everyone cries for him? Is that...
We
did you-
didn't know. It's not that we didn't
uncle.
know.
He was
it
uncle.
was a crime. We understand that.
He was uncle, that's actual translation.
Everything what he did
Father of
was,
the country.
Was right. If those people are in Siberia, probably
They
they
deserve
deserve it. And later on, we found out that Stalin wanted to move all Jews because the majority of Jews in Russia lived in big cities like Odessa, Moscow, Leningrad. So there is a small autonomic republic in Siberia called Birobidzhan. I probably nobody ever heard it. Very, very tiny.
That's where Jews were exported.
Yeah, but what Stalin wanted to do, to move all the Jews from all big cities and to Siberia, though he knew that the majority of Jews in big city are the manpower, the scientists and writers and art and everything was. So
The intelligentsia, when the Jews
intelligentsia,
educated.
yeah. So again, we found it much later that already he made an order to build rails, I don't know, some trains, and on a way to have what you call it, trenches with the what you call it, chlorine or whatever. So on a way there to kill some people and to bury them there. That was preparing if he didn't die or killed. There's some information that he was killed or died, so that could happen. But at that point, we really were crying. I was still in school. We had such a distorted image. There was just Veliki Stalin. Veliki, it means great, great. But when I was a child, to me, Veliki means like a giant. I remember we were with my mother going on the street, and there is a huge medal on a wall or on a building. And I asked my mother, Mom, probably Stalin wears a medal like that because he's great. He's giant, he's big.
Wow.
No, they thought he was superhuman.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, green giant, you know, like 20 feet tall.
So, but by the time when immigration
So when
started,
he died, you know.
yeah, we already had some information from letters from friends, and at that point I decided, as I said, I know all my life ahead till the end here, but I don't know what will be my life there. Maybe someday I will see Paris.
And so did you, you know, when you were deciding this momentous life decision, what was your mother's stance on it? How did she feel about you leaving?
Oh, she was for it, but we couldn't live together because of the money. I had to pay for removing my citizenship and to pay for my education because I had university and buy a ticket, and we had absolutely nothing. So I had to borrow and leave my mother as a hostage. Then eventually I worked here when I come, and any penny that I made, I was sending them.
Not bad for a girl. All of a sudden she has a $7,000 apartment in Manhattan for 3 months. Not bad. Huh?
2.5. But
She's done well for herself, hasn't she?
yeah, so at that time in '74 was relatively easy. That when we call cars for Jews, Brezhnev loved luxury American cars, Cadillacs, everything, and who was president at then?
Nixon gave him a bunch of Cadillacs and Lincoln, and he drove them inside of Kremlin.
Exactly, in exchange
Like an idiot,
for
like a little child, you know, in Toys R Us.
And in exchange for
So
that, he made it easy.
Being driven inside of Kremlin in Lincoln Continental or something.
And he was
Crazy.
an idiot. So at that time, it was relatively easy. What you need, just invitation from Israel, from somebody that I even don't know, but I can claim it's my cousin or whatever. And with this invitation, I go to Russian authority and apply for exit visa.
See, Nixon does not get the credit for this.
Oh, we were
You don't hear this.
Yeah, everyone knows Nixon is a crook.
Watergate, that's it. Nixon,
That's all
Watergate, even though he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, no, right.
let's not
But
talk
he
about
does not get the credit. Let the Jews out. He told Brezhnev.
So at that point you apply for exit visa
I think it started with Khrushchev. That famous kitchen debate. Doesn't matter.
No, that is a long time
That's a
ago.
history.
But if you get visa from Russian authority, not everybody could get it. There are some people who worked in somewhere where they would be considered maybe knowing some secrets. Some people were dissidents, something, I don't know, doing some protest against the government. But for me, I had nothing, so I got the visa relatively easy. It was in, I think, September, and I was rushing to leave even before the visa expires because everybody was saying, you know, very soon it will all stop, it will all stop. So,
So this is part of the Nixon outreach to get
Yes.
the Jews out.
yes, yes,
So interesting.
cars for
And
Jews.
did you have these conversations with your friends? Like, did other friends, your close friends, want to leave and go through this process, or was it just you?
No, I had friends. First of all, I had friends who are now our close friends who went through Israel. I was getting letter from them. Then my boss on the computer center, but by that time he left. He and his family, wife and son, they went Kansas City. And I told you his nephew, who later became my husband, he lived with then his wife and a son in Flint, Michigan. So I was getting some information, but
It was a tremendous loss to Soviet Empire.
yeah.
All educated, highly educated people were leaving. Resourceful, artistic, creative people were all leaving.
Not only that, some people, like
All right,
the kind of people who live in Brighton Beach.
All right, fine, but that's just residual.
We cannot say that only all.
But they lost all of them. In
Yeah.
a matter of years, they lost really the most educated people in Russia.
A lot, yeah, a lot. I haven't been to Odessa. I told you yesterday I haven't been to my hometown, but people who were there, friends that I know, they say it's so different. It is so different. First of all, much less people, much less because in Odessa there was a lot of Jews. Now I
Million.
don't say.
1 million left, right?
No, 1 million people was. Now it's less. 1 million
How many
people, I don't
Jews
know.
left?
I don't know. If you
all of them,
100,000.
practically all.
No, not all. No, you saw
When
you
I
saw
go, I
people
see
who come.
Jews from Odessa.
No, you saw people who come here to visit. But anyway, I bought a ticket just to Kiev, and from Kiev to Vienna, because Vienna was a place where Russian immigrants allowed to stay a couple of days and going through a process of interview. Because from Vienna, you could go to Israel or to Italy. Italy agreed to accept Russian immigrants. For sure, it was all paid by
But that was a
Jewish
transition
organization.
only.
It was transition. No, nobody could stay in Italy. But if you go to Israel, you don't go to Italy. So they interview, why don't you want to go to Israel? And it was mostly formally. So how come you left your mother there and you go? No, I say I have close relatives and my future husband had the same last name. So, but where to go, that was a big decision. At that time, in places like Kansas City or Flint, was very, very few Jews. Everybody tried to go to New York. And I was told that for a single woman to go to New York, it will be extremely hard. But I still went to New York. I met, in Italy, I met a woman with her daughter. So we rented apartment together and stayed there for a while. I came in November of '74. At that time, it was just a couple of days before Thanksgiving Day of that year. And then at least 6 months, that's what I was doing, cleaning, taking care of sick people or whatever, learning English, studying English. And then in July of '75, I remember, July, yeah, 7/7, I remember even that day, I got a job as a trainee in Chase Manhattan Bank.
So you went from Italy to New York.
Yes, yes.
And how long did it take the actual trip from Odessa to New York? How long did you stay in Italy?
Oh, in Italy, what you do in Italy, I applied, like all other immigrants, applied to American Embassy. for getting not green card. We didn't get green card. It's what is called refugee. You get a status of refugee based on political reason, and with that status, yeah, I could come to New York. So I was in Italy about a couple of months.
No, but that's automatic green card. Didn't they give you automatic green card at the airport?
My mother got automatic. When a year later I brought my mother and my aunt, they got automatic green card.
I got automatic green card.
I didn't get. I got refugee, and then it took, I don't remember how long, a year or so it took to get a green card. No, that was, no, it took even more. I remember my first trip abroad when I was already employee of Chase Manhattan Bank, and there was a group getting to Europe. I was a part of the group, and that was in '77. And I remember we were there 2 weeks. We visited 6 countries, and the whole trip, including everything, was $900. It was a lot for me because as a trainee, I got salary, big salary, close, something almost $10,000 a year. But my God, my first trip abroad, and the first stop, Paris. And the first trip that we go Montmartre. It was unreal. It was absolutely unreal.
You finally made it.
Yeah. Then we went to other country. We went Holland, Belgium.
Via New York. Go to Paris via New York.
But I was one of the first. I remember that I was known, Marina, who was in Europe. Now, a few years later, everybody would go, because Russians travel a lot. I studied English, but my English still was very poor. I still remember getting into something like my boss would say, join me. So, come on. I said, no, I'm not from Germany, I'm from Russia. Things like that. Or when I was a trainee, as a program trainee, and they say, the system down. So what, did they move to another floor? Things like that.
So you didn't speak any English when you came here?
A little bit, because I studied in Italy, a little bit. But when at the trainee group, I remember there was 16 people. For sure, I was the only immigrant who didn't know the word. But it was okay. That was a big luck for me with my university diploma, and I got a job as a trainee.
That was a big deal.
Teaching English was discouraged in those countries.
Right.
What, teaching English?
Did they teach you English in schools?
No. Some schools were.
I don't remember anywhere in my country teaching English in 1950s.
When I was in school, just I studied French.
English was looked down upon.
No, and I know in Russia some school where they were teaching German, some school French, like in my school.
German, yes.
English, no, some school.
French and German, yes, but not English. When I came to this country, at the airport, they gave me a green card because I was not she was an immigrant. I was not. I escaped from that country.
Really? What year was that?
Tell more about
69.
your way.
So they, 68, actually, 68.
In '68, when we Russian invaded Czechoslovakia.
So in August of 68, Russian, Soviets, tanks came to my country because we had something that was giving us something, there was freedom all of a sudden. Overnight, we had a party leader. Party leader was the god. President was nobody, a puppet. So we had appointed a communist party leader by name of Dubček, who decided to implement socialism with a human face. Russians didn't like that. So within few months, all of a sudden, he allowed something that was prohibited, gathering on corners. So people all of a sudden started talking freely on corners, talking. I mean, that was such a relief. So they called that the Prague Spring. And by August of the same year, Brezhnev decided, no, this is not going to work. Tanks came in.
In 68.
And it was squashed, brutally squashed.
I remember that.
I remember that I was in the army, in Prague actually. So I saw people being shot, killed. They were marauding through Prague, and tanks were shooting at anything, and just to show that there was a counter-revolution. The early wave of Russian soldiers was removed immediately because they were told it is counter-revolution. That's a big term, counter-revolution. Oh, you with us or you against us, something like that. So the first wave of soldiers was removed, and the next wave came, and I said, look, all the shooting, you see that? But they were doing the shooting, we didn't do anything. Because the moment they crossed the border from all directions, I was in the army. They told us to remove our uniforms, hats, belts, everything. And you are no longer an army.
Who told you that?
Our leaders.
Yeah, do where you want to go.
Go home. You are no longer an army.
Because the Russian army.
Because the Russians came over here, they disbanded our army, and they are replacing you.
So was there any talk between the officer corps or your colleagues of?
There was a talk of resistance, but they would wipe us out overnight. They would wipe us out. We were tiny little Czechoslovakia fighting mighty Russia. No. And that's what they were waiting for. They were waiting for that to see some armed resistance. They would wipe us out. 2 million people killed for tiny country like that. They would do it. So they just said the best thing to do is to prevent casualties, just go home. Everybody goes home. No army. We have no army. People cried and all that.
How did you feel about that?
No, I cried. Everybody cried. I mean, once you taste this freedom of talking, freedom of expression, my God, all of a sudden in a few months we had that. So you get drunk, you get, you have hangover from that, and now all of a sudden, no more. So when they sent us home, the Russian Soviets kidnapped our government, took them to Russia for indoctrination. They came back about a week later, and all of a sudden we signed an agreement for next 25 years with our brothers Soviets. So Igor says, no, I'm not going to live. Once I tasted this freedom, I'm not going to live under that anymore. So I escaped.
How did you escape?
Long way around through I had no passport. So the only way west was going east. So we forged some papers and we bought some train tickets to Bulgaria because to travel to Bulgaria at that time was allowed in 1968. So we bought tickets train tickets to Bulgaria, knowing that we are going to go through, the only way to go there is through Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was communist, but not Stalinist, not the bloc of the Soviets. They were independent socialists and communists. So we said the only way west was going to go through Yugoslavia. So in Beograd, we jumped out of the train.
How many of you?
Two of us.
Touch with them?
One of them, no.
With them, it's you and just another guy.
Another guy, right?
No, just
two of us. Yeah, we were three, actually, but that's a long story. So we jumped out of the train. Now the soldiers, the Yugoslav soldiers, they knew that there would be always attempts to jump out of the train. So they were there standing on the station at the platform with machine guns, and discouraging, but we just jumped and ran. And we felt bullets flying, I don't know.
Really?
Oh yeah, real bullets.
Dodge bullets to get out of Czechoslovakia.
Right. Now, so my first barrier was to climb a huge hill of coal for the trains. So we were climbing, and that's not easy. It's like climbing a sand dune, And we were going down more than 2 steps down. But finally, when we went over the top of that mount of coal and rolled down back, can you imagine how dirty we were? Black. And now, next step was we already were planned out. Next step, somehow walk through entire Yugoslavia to go to Austria.
How long did that take?
That took about a month.
With no passport?
No passport,
Where'd
no
you sleep? What'd you eat? Who'd you meet?
parks, streets, but
Sometimes people were giving you.
now in Beograd the people were not nice. I don't have good memories of Beograd, but somehow we made it to Zagreb, which is Croatia.
Maybe do some physical
We
work.
walked, we hitchhiked, we rode trains, whatever. And we made it to Zagreb, and the moment they heard where we're from, they took us in. Go, take shower, wash yourself, they fed us. We drank Slivovitz, and they treat us very well. So we know what it means to be oppressed by somebody, because Croatians felt they were oppressed by the Serbs. Then Yugoslavia was a country of nations of 7 nationalities, and so the Croatians were super nice to us. They gave us food, money they didn't have like us. And good luck. So we went. We actually walked to the sea. First time ever I saw a sea, Adriatic Sea, green, blue, clear. Well, beautiful.
That's why we're dreaming now to take a trip along Adriatic Sea.
I was
I've never seen.
I was splashing around. Oh, sea, salty water got into my nose and ears and throat, and I don't care. But then it was already October.
You were.
And we knew that we had to cross the Alps. And October and Alps mean snow already. So we said, hey, his name was Milan. I said, we gotta go. I mean, we could be splashing around in the ocean forever, but we gotta go, because once it starts snowing heavily, we'll never cross. So we took a route over to the Alps, Slovenia, which is the bordering country now with Austria. We were heading towards Austrian border, through Slovenia, through Ljubljana. And, you see the Alps ahead of you, looming ahead. We had only clothes what we left the country with. And so we started climbing. I said, Milan, I was the geographic mind. He had no idea east, west. I had everything mapped out. I knew exactly what direction to go, how high, how. I said, all we have to do, climb the Alps and come down on the other side, that's all. And how do we know where we are? I was hugging a river. I forgot the name of it, but I was hugging that river as we were climbing. I always made sure that we eventually will see the river again. I said, once we reach some kind of peak or something or height, and we start going down, I know we must be in Austria. But a river, I always look down, there was a tiny little ribbon, that's all it was, a ribbon, but it was already snowing.
But there was a border there, and that.
When we crossed the border, we saw some guards, but I didn't know whether they were Slovenian, Yugoslav guards, or whether they were Austrian guards. I didn't know. We saw them in distance. So we just made our way through over there and started going down. I felt we going down, not because, it could have been a valley, but I already felt that we are really on our way down from the Alps. You look at the trees, you look at the vegetation, you see that it's different. Once you start seeing leaves, you know you are going down. Otherwise, it's all coniferous. And eventually now we came to a road, darkness already. And my friend the river was there, gurgling. I said, you know what, we have to be in Austria. So we came down to the road and we peeked around and we began to see cars with a big W. Vienna.
Right, right.
We are in Austria, so we started hitchhiking. And actually, it was dark already, cold, and say, if we're going to sleep in snow, I don't know how we're going to survive. But a guy stopped, Volkswagen Beetle, and I knew few German words. And, you know, ich bin ein Ausländer.
Right.
And
You don't know what town this was in Austria?
there was no town. It was just a road.
village.
It was right, not even that. It was just mountains, road, and the river. There was no town. But a guy was returning from somewhere, I don't remember where, and he said, I'm going to Vienna, 400 kilometers. And we made it. 3 a.m., we were in...
So he took you?
He took us. We were lucky. I mean, imagine what the way we looked. Haggard, probably looked like bums. And he stopped. He said, I said, nach Vienna, to Vienna. He said, okay, hop in.
That's amazing.
We told him where we were, who we were, and all. I said, oh, don't worry. So the thing to do when you come to Vienna is to seek out a police and say, I am an Ausländer. Ausländer means refugee.
Refuge.
And at that time, the price, Austrians were a neutral country. That was the price they paid for Russians to leave them, because Soviets were occupying Austria after World War II.
Oh, yeah. Birthplace of Hitler.
Right. And Austrians were heavy duty Nazis. So we came to 3 a.m., 4 a.m., we came to Vienna, we seeked up police, you know, arrest us, they put us into jail, gave us coffee, woo, coffee, warm coffee. No, it wasn't coffee from coffee beans. It was coffee from roasted barley. That was burnt black roasted barley.
But for you, probably.
Oh my God! But it was with sugar, and it was with little milk, and it was hot. Ooh, the greatest smelling and tasting coffee I ever had until now.
That's amazing. How old were you during this journey? 1969.
1968. So I had to be
21.
21.
Just 21.
Did you tell your parents you were leaving?
No, I couldn't.
He couldn't communicate.
No, I could communicate, but I couldn't tell them that. They would never, first of all, I didn't have father. My parents were divorced. So mom, I could not possibly tell her, hey mom, I'm going to West. Now,
Who knows where?
West for people meant Austria/Germany. For me, West meant only one, America. That was America, that was it for me. I'm gonna get there if I have to swim the Atlantic.
Wow.
And I did.
That's an amazing story.
So they put me to, the reason the police arrest you in these countries is to make sure they check with Interpol that you are not internationally wanted. And then they ship you to a concentration camp. So I spent 6 months in a concentration camp.
It wasn't a concentration camp, like, let's say,
Well, not labor camp.
in the war.
Concentration meaning all the refugees holding camp. But they called it that.
Refugee camp. Yeah, it's more.
And the guards were treating us terribly over there. They were still the remnants of Nazism and all that, and they mistreated us.
So you stayed there 6 months?
6 months.
Doing what? Not any labor, nothing?
You were not allowed to work, but I was sneaking out and I was working. I already was capitalist. I started working labor, moving bricks, cleaning snow. And
Just offering your...
Offering. I would go knock to, do you need any kind of help? Anything I'll do. And there were people were constructing. I said, bring this, bring that, and clean my snow, clean the ice. And I would be buying cigarettes and selling them in the camp.
It was an enterprise.
I already was capital. It didn't take too long. And in spite of the suppression, the communists really were suppressing any kind of free enterprise, free thinking. But that's human nature. So in the concentration camp, there were tiny offices with one room and one window of representative from different countries who would be accepting refugees. So for example, there would be South Africa who would say, we want only people who know something about horses.
Really?
Yeah. Because Czechoslovakia was known for Clydesdale horses. So were the Chileans and Argentinians. They say, hey, we want 50 people who know something about Clydesdale horses. And people lied, Oh, sure, I was riding one, go, come on. So, and they would give them educational programs. They would feed them for 6 months, house them for 6 months,
English.
study Spanish, English, whatever the country. Sweden would be offering something like that. And people, and immediate transport. 2-3 days later, and I said, Igor, you're not going to be lazy. No. You want America. America said 6 months, minimum. So I stayed 6 months. I had to go to Vienna. That was 20 kilometers. Vienna was from Traiskirchen. The name of the camp and village was Traiskirchen. 3 churches. That's what it means. And I would be walking to Vienna. I had no money for train. So I walked 20 kilometers to Vienna, went to the embassy, applied, responded to everything they wanted, fill out applications, interviews, and go back. So I would come back 2 weeks later, anything, not yet, go back. And so finally they would tell me in February, okay, you're flying in March, I think it was, early March. So they put me to airplane in Vienna. I landed in New York. They gave me $5 bill. They gave me a paper green card. And they drove me to a hotel near Times Square for 3 nights. I had paid room for 3 months.
For 3 nights.
3 nights. I thought it said 3 months. 3 nights. And there was a hotel for refugees and prostitutes. And the girls would come to me and say, yeah, right, I have $5 here. But the $5 went very quickly. But you know what? I could buy 3 hot dogs. 3 hot dogs, Coca-Cola, a burger. So the $5 lasted about a day. But then they gave me address of a place where I could go and look for a job. Some kind of manpower, I don't remember the terms. And there was somewhere on 42nd Street or some in that area. And so I would go there. They gave me a map, an address, go. You're going to have a job. They made phone calls, you're going to have a job. I said, where is it? Yeah, I have to go over the bridge, da-da-da. Now I know it was Greenpoint, Queens.
Oh, interesting.
So I walked across 59th Street Bridge. I showed the map to some people locally. Oh, it was a Polish neighborhood, so I was actually bumped into some Polish people.
Yeah, even now it's Polish.
Yeah. So turn left, turn right. It was a factory where they were making receptacles and electrical outlets and that kind of stuff. So take your jacket off, put your clothes on. I said, well, this is all I have. And get on assembly line. So in 1 hour, I was covered with oil. And so back to the hotel. But I already had some contacts, because that was the thing in the camp. Exchange information, exchange and write. The moment you come, write. So I had an address on 181st. So I walked up there. The 3 guys were living together. They said, hey, come on, Igor, I waited for my first paycheck.
181st, this was the place.
Washington Heights. Yeah.
My first place when I came, 181st.
That's crazy. And you didn't know each other.
No, a few years apart.
No.
This was destiny.
When we found out where we lived, and later in New York, when Igor was married and I was married, we lived in Queens, practically a couple of blocks.
Right. So we were always skirting around.
Yeah, and I always say that nobody knows the real reason why Russia invaded Czechoslovakia in '68, because to get Igor out of there to America, and then in '74...
She mobilized the army to kick me out of the country.
I love that.
So I waited like there is, like the second coming of Jesus Christ. Friday was a payday. My first paycheck. Woo, $70. Do you know how rich man I felt? $70. I could take a subway because I couldn't ride subways. I had no money for subway. So finally I could take subway. It was only 25 cents or something.
Even when I came,
25 cents subway.
25 cents.
There were tokens. They don't have tokens.
Even when I came in 74, were tokens for many years after that.
So now I could ride subway. I could buy myself a gallon of milk. Gallon of milk was under $1. I bought a whole chicken. I don't know, 70 cents. $70 went a long way those days, really. I couldn't spend it that day. Of course, I had to buy a gallon of wine. Gallo. You remember that company, Gallo?
Sure.
That was a gallon of wine was
They
as expensive as gallon of milk, I think, $1.20 or something. So America was a great country. After 1 week, that's all it took. 1 week, I was a rich man. Next paycheck, whoa,
That's amazing. So have you been back to
Yes.
Slovakia?
Yes. I could not go back while communism lasted, because I was declared traitor. Publicly, they would condemn me to some, 15 years of hard labor. So I couldn't go back until communism fell. And it did in 1991. Wow. So that was the first time I went back.
Did your mother ever come here?
Yes. I brought her, my grandmother too. I brought them over here.
As tourists.
For them, the first trip out of the country was New York. Boom,
That's crazy.
My mother absolutely adored America, absolutely adored it. My grandmother didn't because she didn't like the food.
So your grandmother was Slovak?
Yes, both. And when my grandmother was leaving, after I had them here for 6 months, when my grandmother was leaving, she said, "Igor, thank you very much for the trip. Now I can die." And she did.
She saw next year.
Yeah.
She saw America. Yeah, we are. You see, only us immigrants can be not only, but we are very patriotic about this country. This country not perfect, not ideal. Nothing and nobody in this world is ideal, but this is the best country to live in. If you try hard enough, you will make it. Maybe you will not become a millionaire or
first paycheck. Now, school, that was the next thing for me. I gotta go to school because I could not work these kind of jobs. I was cleaning toilets, I was working in warehouses and all that. So this is not the way to go. So I actually applied for a computer class. Why computer? I don't know. I don't remember why. There was no such a thing as a computer science, computer industry, none of that. Computers existed already. IBM already was big. But it was very inaccessible. It was not just, like you go to Apple store and buy a computer or learn it, So I attended some night classes where they were teaching this stuff. And I didn't speak English, that was the thing. But I understood already. And I think that was the greatest thing I had done in America, to be lucky enough to bump into this computer idea. And it grew. It came to a point I got a great job with Bankers Trust. It doesn't exist anymore.
Bankers Trust.
Then I started going to school at Hunter College, computer science, and that opened the door.
That was in the 70s.
70s. Mm-hmm.
And this is before you came in 74.
Yeah, by that time he was married.
In 1975 or so, I already was married. I finished my school.
Your son was born in 75.
Right.
Yeah, I came in 74, and I got married when 78.
Where did you guys meet?
At work.
She was my client.
Yeah, he was in support
I was in support group, and this gang of Russian girls were calling me all the time. Hey, Igor, I need. When they saw the name Igor, hey, he must be Russian.
Yeah, speak Russian. I remember a colleague of mine who was Russian. Marina, you got a message from somebody by name Igor. But you know Russian, some of them don't even to be bothered to speak Russian.
They thought I'm some kind of snob, snotty.
pretended
He
that
doesn't want to speak Russian.
Just only English.
But we name like Igor, you know. You have to be Russian.
Even now when we meet, because we have a big circle of friends, but majority Russians, and if we meet new people, he introduced himself, Igor, everybody start talking to him in Russian.
So we met at the manufacturer's Hanover. I was a contractor there already, right?
Yeah.
I was subcontracting, working on
I was
actually
a
performance.
contractor also at that time. I was a consultant also.
So there was this new database coming out of IBM that became a big hit because it was simpler to use. And I picked it up immediately. I said, this is something I'm going to have to put on my resume. So I started learning this thing called DB2 database, relational database. IBM was really pushing it. And because it was easier to use, program, when I say use, I mean program. It was easier to program it than the previous mainstay database. Uneducated people in this environment were making very inefficient programs that were very slow, inefficient access, because they were not trained, because easy to use. And ease of use means you develop lazy code. So I said that could be my niche, to learn how to monitor and tune these kind of programs and environments. So that was a smart thing to do, to enter performance environment.
And I was application programmer, and for us it was new to learn DB2. So I had to call him.
So I was hired by Carl. I was hired at Manny to tune up their database environment because it was badly designed and architected. So that's what I was hired for, to tune it all up. And application programmer started calling me right away. Oh, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, performance this, performance that. And that's how we met. We started meeting after work. That's what IT people do. They meet after work and drink.
Yeah, we had friends.
So it was natural. You were at a bar drinking and you guys know each other.
And that's how it all began.
Do you remember your first date?
Date? It's even hard to say because.
Well, yeah, it was Kevin's birthday party.
Yeah, one.
No, that wasn't a date. That's where we really hooked up.
Yeah, in a bar. It was our mutual friend birthday party.
No, we went to his apartment.
No. It was in a bar, I remember well, because it was him, it was Mary Ellen, you and me.
But that was his birthday? In the bar? Not his apartment?
No, April 1st.
What was the party in his apartment? Oh, Mary Ellen's apartment. What was that?
Oh, that was my birthday.
Oh, okay, somebody's birthday.
Yeah, my
So when it comes to past events, I cannot argue with her.
They arranged a surprise birthday party for me.
That is right.
And one of our common friends, he asked me a video camera, because my then husband, he was doing video, and I had no idea why. He borrowed this video, and they were taping everything, and I'm so, I don't know, absent-minded, naive, gullible. I even didn't notice. So what they did, they taping everything, and they invited a stripper.
Imagine this proper Soviet communist raised girl, all of a sudden a stripper.
I had no idea. That guy comes dressed as a
Policeman, right?
I don't remember.
Was he a policeman?
No, I think as a computer program or something.
I thought he had a uniform. No?
No, he was not policeman. No, something. And then he started undressing. Too bad I lost the tape. Who knows it?
Maybe you still have it.
No, that was a VHS I threw out.
So what year was this when you first?
80 what?
87.
87.
Yeah. That was 87.
So 87, that makes you 48?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you were 40? Is that right?
You
Already was 41, wasn't it?
41, I think. But that when we really started dating, I was afraid even to tell him my age. It made me very uneasy to realize that I'm older.
It meant nothing to me.
Yeah.
Six years ago, my wife tells me, Igor, what is one thing I always wanted in my whole life? Ooh, I'm thinking diamond ring. I'm thinking, oh, gee, what could that possibly be? I drew blank. I couldn't. I want a dog. So this is it. Here's the result.
She is the joy of our life. We take care
So we bought it. I said, who is going to walk it? I will walk it. Who walks it now? It's me.
No. I walk her in the morning.
In the morning, I walk it twice a day.
That's it.
What's her name?
Katie.
Katie.
How did you come up with Katie?
Her
Her mother was Katie, so we couldn't think of
Kathleen.
Kathleen.
Her mother was
So
Kathleen.
So Katie is a good name. We couldn't think of her. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't think of a,
She's such affection.
Spot. No, I wouldn't call it Spot.
No.
You guys lived in New York for how long? And where?
In New Jersey. In New Jersey, we lived for a while, almost 20 years in in West New York, and then we bought. What year? About 8 years or more. We bought a house, our present house in Florida, but he still was working. I retired.
We were snowbirding. We bought a house in Florida and went there whenever we could.
Even
Weekends.
when we could, because you still were working. But then when he stopped working, he was forcefully retired at age 62. So we realized we cannot maintain two homes. So
Then we got.
5 years ago, we moved permanently to Florida.
I thought it was 6, but so while we had a house in Florida, why stay here? Florida, I always loved Florida.
No, 5. Why I remember 5? Because when we got her, we had apartment in that rental building, and I made sure that they would allow the dog. So that was.
And it's a good move. You're happy in Florida?
I love Florida.
He loves it. I cannot say that I don't like, but even before my accident, I always was saying the biggest problem in Florida that you have to drive everywhere. That's why I like to be in New York, no matter my bad foot.
She feels independent in New York. She can go out.
I can take public transportation. I can.
In Florida, she says, Igor, I need to go here. Igor, I need to go there. And it's, she feels very guilty about that.
Dependent. But now, if everything will be okay, we're planning to come every year for a month, at least 1 month.
And shorter trips throughout the year. Like, she already is planning October trip here.
I'm not that sure.
Well, it doesn't matter, but you're already planning it.
It's
So
hard for me to travel by myself. Oh, we can do Skype. That's what people do nowadays. Because to stay, you see, if I would come for a few days, I have to stay with my friend who is far. I have to take a cab. My daughter will be working during the day. So when will I see the baby?
a weekend. I don't know. So, but she already is thinking about coming here really month after we leave. So I think this is the way we should do it. Spend 1 month over here and intersperse it with few trips throughout the year.
Maybe, yes, maybe no, but 1 month in New York would be for me very important, very
I think
refreshing.
when you leave after this trip, seeing you interact with your daughter and David, you become addicted to the baby.
Oh yeah, I didn't see
You'll come
him
back.
today yet.
She wants to come back here 2, 3, 4 times a year for a long weekend, let's say, but she puts this mental block in front of her, my foot, my foot, my foot. It's going to be...
No, now I'm getting
It's
better.
going to be my, you know, my...
I'm getting better. I take
burden.
bus, I take taxi. No, it's not that bad. Okay, well,
Because if you resolve that issue of not worrying about your foot, you could be coming here every month.
I wouldn't come here every month because you see that is completely different. Now we are renting this apartment and I feel very good here. I told you, bright, sunny, that's what I like. We are completely independent. We have different rooms, we have different bathrooms. But if I to stay in a hotel by myself, it's pretty costly. To stay with my friend, I don't like to stay with somebody. It makes me feel, though she is a very nice friend and she is a dear friend of mine, but it's not like to have this. So do you want me to come every couple of months and rent a hotel?
Yeah.
This is 300 a day.
So what?
But now you guys have done a lot of traveling together. Do you plan on doing more traveling in the future?
Oh yeah. I mentioned to you we booked a cruise around South America, starting with Rio. That's why I asked you about Rio, because we would like to go there a couple of days. So if we stayed even, let's say, 4 or 5 days.
No, 4 days in Rio is probably enough.
No, but including that will include.
But there are many neighborhoods in Rio you don't want to go to.
We are not going to. No, they say in Rio, be very careful. Stay in a nice hotel.
So we're going to spend a few days in Rio, and then we hop on a ship and go around the southern part,
goes
Patagonia,
to Buenos Aires, Falkland Island,
the Magellan
Montevideo.
Strait, and up to all the way to Santiago de Chile.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And maybe we were thinking about going to hop over to Peru, no?
No, but then in summer, you see, we planned last year. We worked out the itinerary. I made reservation all hotels, car, airfare tickets.
A drive to
everything.
Europe.
Drive to Europe, including Adriatic Sea, come to his country to see his family. Everything was, we were supposed to leave August 25th, and July 31st that happened. So nothing we can do.
So that trip we want to reprise next year.
Yeah. No, but we plan to travel. When we travel, especially cruises, I see people so much older than I am. I don't say.
Wheelchairs.
A lot, yeah, people.
Half of the ship is on wheelchairs.
How many cruises have you been on?
A lot.
4, 5, 6.
Yeah, at least 6, I think.
You like it?
I love cruises. I love cruises.
He exercises.
I spend most of the day in the gym. Not only working out, but I do spin cycle, massages. The whole spa is on top of the ship, and I am looking like a captain at the whole sea. Gorgeous. I love that.
No, we like
And then the
cruise,
entertainment, I like
even
I like the
sea
locals.
day.
And then every day you are in a different place.
No, even if we are not, even so-called sea day, when you are in the middle of the ocean, it's still a lot of entertainment, a lot to do. We usually get a cabin with a balcony. So.
And I like the concept. One day Tokyo, next day Korea already, and then China, and then Singapore, and then Thailand, and then Guam. For example, Guam, the island.
That's amazing.
It's amazing to see
all
Guam.
those places. The first, when we took a big trip, that segment for a world cruise.
I think Guam has 3 electoral votes, doesn't it? I think it does.
Yeah, when was our world cruise segment of the world cruise? Our first trip was Sydney. Have you been to Sydney?
I have been to Sydney.
Isn't it amazing?
My wife's favorite city.
Great ambience, great.
Beautiful.
Australians are great people. Like to beer, like to party.
It's true.
Yeah.
Because no, but if we get old completely, so because now, like we had not like a year before, we had a trip 6 weeks just through entire Europe by car. We visited so many countries and so many places. It's unbelievable. and then it was also 2 years ago.
So who hates New York is Katie. Katie does not like New York.
But she should like, because she is with us. When we go on a cruise or on a trip, we cannot take her. We leave her with the dog sitter. So she
doesn't like New York.
If you could talk to future generations, what would you tell them?
Appreciate this country. I think that is my biggest advice to future generation. Appreciate this country. They do not.
Yeah, that's my daughter
They do
said,
not.
though she is American, she is born in America, but she said that Americans behave like spoiled rich children. They take everything for granted. We can compare, that's why we can appreciate. We can compare, and as I say usually, America is not perfect, America is not ideal.
And the best way to see America is to go outside.
Yeah.
Go outside.
People come
see.
to America. How many people went from America to Russia?
My son, I made sure that immediately he goes to Europe. Travels. Do you know what the biggest problem he encountered? Couldn't find ice cubes for his Coca-Cola. He was so displeased about, where is my ice for my Coca-Cola? In Europe, he couldn't find it.
Did you tell him about the first coffee you experienced?
Yes. Or for example, he wanted his Big Mac. Well, of course, you don't get automatically ketchup. You have to pay for ketchup. So these little things, eventually.
Now in Europe, you have to
That's
pay
right.
25 cents for a little bag.
So-
Probably you've been.
So David, when you go to Europe and have a hamburger.
And you will see the difference.
You
No,
will see.
what else? What I want? No, that is our main thing. Appreciate this country. But criticize, yes, you can criticize. There is a lot of things to be criticized here.
But you can,
still-
if you can fix it anywhere, it's in America. It's hard to fix things outside of this
Don't
country.
just criticize. Do something to change it, to fix it. Most people don't. This is bad and this is bad. I have a friend of mine, a very dear friend that I usually stay when I come, and I say, "Did you ever vote?" She never votes on a simple reason. No, maybe she is right because she lives in New York. Does it make any difference when you
Such a
live in New
privilege
York?
to vote. Such a privilege.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I say the same thing to friends who complain.
Yeah.
Vote, do something.
We don't.
Or don't bitch. If you don't vote, you cannot bitch.
Yeah, we cannot do a lot, but we do our citizenship.
So we vote because we couldn't.
Yeah.
In my country, I would wake up in the morning and we have new president. What happened to the previous one? Oh, he fell out of window.
We voted, it was mandatory, so they give you a ballot and you, but if it's a one position, it's a one name there. And then they say 99.9% voted for this candidate, and we have the most democratic vote in the world, election in the world, because they're in America, you know what they do? They buy votes.
That's what you remember,
Yeah, so people don't appreciate. No, but what else I
The
want
things
to
we used to hear about America behind the Iron Curtain, it's unreal.
Oh, yeah. Imperialist, they
But we didn't believe them.
they
We didn't
want,
believe them.
Yeah. And what else I want to say? I think I mentioned it yesterday. That one of the hardest things to try to be honest with yourself. Not with everybody. It's impossible to be honest with everybody and always. Try to look into yourself and be honest with yourself. And I know it's very hard. Then something else that unfortunately I don't have it. I made a lot of mistakes in my life, so everybody did. And you will do, David, you will make your own mistakes, and that is, you learn only on your mistakes. You cannot learn on somebody's mistake. But my problem all my life, that I live in the past, regretting things that I did in the past that cannot be changed, or live in the future, live in the future, planning for the future. And the best thing that some people, the best ability live today, live in your present. We were talking that famous saying that the past is a history, future is a mystery, and present is a gift. That's why it's called present.
I love that. I love that.
Appreciate present.
And find a passion and follow it.
Yeah, don't compromise.
Passion,
don't compromise.
go for it.
I think you said something maybe off camera, Igor, that you love to go to work.
I enjoyed going to work. I was looking in the morning, I would wake up and I said, I am going to work. Hey, I got ideas. I want to implement them. I want to do this, I want to do that. And you can apply yourself. It's a good feeling.
Don't you think that's a wonderful sign of a successful life?
I think
It
so.
almost doesn't even matter what you do, but to
Enjoy it.
But you know, when you come to this age, sometimes I think I'm not saying that my life is a failure, no. But is it a success? I don't know. For some reason at the end of the life, I feel somehow
Retrospective, and we all do that.
depressed because it comes to the end. Nobody knows when it will be the end, tomorrow or in 20 years. But still, the only what we know that we have much less to do, to live than it behind us. And depends how you decide to live those years. Sometimes I feel so elated, or we still can go to travel. I wasn't killed in this accident, I didn't become invalid, I still can do this and that. And sometimes, I've seen it all. So,
it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. Is there any other thing you guys want to say while we have you?
yeah, and another things that I try to learn, to instill in myself, that there is no problems in the world, just attitude to that problem. This is so much true, but it's hard for me to accept it.
And I love my wife.